This program contains coarse language and discusses mature themes. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
I think I did it. Okay. Because you're at the studio right now, right?
Yeah, I
Oh
am.
my gosh. Like, to think that, like, you're at somewhere that I first got suspended is crazy.
Yes, a historical site.
It really, like, it's incredible. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not doing my intro. Welcome to the LA Couch Podcast, or whatever the heck this is. I'm your host, Star Ginger, and this is Rope Collective. I don't know. I didn't ask how you should be addressed. Do you want to say is that?
Yeah, so I'm Submissive Tiger. My real name's Tony, but I go by Submissive Tiger in the rope and kink world. And yeah, we're tapping in from the Rope Collective studio here in San Diego.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, we're San Diego's first rope dedicated full-time studio.
I didn't know that you're the first.
Yeah, of my, according to my calculations.
As far as I know, I am the first. Because you've been doing this, I think from what I've learned, for like 4 years ago, going way back.
Yeah, we started in 2019. The Rope Collective was founded. And from, I think, August of 2019 to March of 2020, which was like COVID, we were hosting out of this little vintage shop in Chula Vista called Upright Citizen. They had these big back rooms for storage that they weren't really using. So they cleared them out for us, and we started hosting weekly classes and performance events and things like that. And it was going really well. Everything was like, all of the classes were selling out. People were all about it. But then COVID hit. And so when things locked down, we went virtual. We started doing some virtual classes, some virtual offerings. And then when things opened back up, Upright Citizen had to move into a smaller space. So they didn't really have room for us anymore. So then we were just kind of bouncing around and like renting these random venues. There was like this weird little music venue in Bankers Hill we were renting, and we were renting this like ballet school studio after dark and people's backyards, just random, and just kind of like bouncing from venue to venue. And then I finally was just like, it, like I really just need to get space for us, and put all of my blood, sweat, and tears and finances and yeah, just kind of risked it all to open this space. And it's now been about 8 months here.
You've been such a journey to make this beautiful thing that I feel so blessed to have any like my toe dipped into it. It's incredible, this journey that you've been on to make something that I hope grows to be so much more. I mean, I did not know how much into rope art that I would ever be into. It never crossed my mind at all. And then getting into knowing people in the rope community, you are way too nice. Way too nice. Like, it's incredible. How did you, like, what was like your like toe step into like the rope world? Because it's such a different community in my brain to anything else.
Yeah, and definitely. So I got into this world damn near a decade ago. So my early 20s, and it was very different back then. It was very wild west. And
Just a lasso coming at you.
literally. So I had moved from San Diego to the Bay Area to San Francisco for school. And
Oh my God, we almost live next to each other because I'm from Santa Cruz and like Los Gatos in San Jose.
yeah, I went to Mills College in Oakland. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I was there for like 5 years. And when I first moved to the Bay Area, I was really excited. For years, I had been interested in shibari and kink. I was a Tumblr girl, so
Oh, good times.
just see all of this stuff on Tumblr, and I was so interested, but I was in this long-term relationship, and when I brought it up to him, he kind of kink shamed me about it and was like, no, that's weird. Which was really funny because I found him being shady to me and using my lines, and I was like, what? So he was actually also interested in it, but just didn't want me to be interested in it for some reason. Anyway, when I moved to San Francisco, I was like really excited just to see what San Francisco had to offer in terms of kink. And I think I had moved there in like an August, and Folsom Street Fair is in September. So
Yes, I've been to one. It was so much fun.
yeah, so my first kink event was actually Folsom Street Fair. And I just had such a great time there. And I didn't see a ton of rope. I guess I was just in the wrong area. But somebody had told me about FetLife and said, "Oh, you should get a FetLife. That way you can see events in the area that might interest you." And the first one that interested me was Bondage a Go Go at the Cat Club in San Francisco.
Yes, we stand for them. I love them.
Yeah, so I started going to Bondage Go Go every Wednesday. And I want to say, like, probably the first or second one I went to, I ended up talking to one of the riggers there that night that was performing. It was my first time seeing live rope suspension in person, and I was just in awe. So I ended up talking to someone there that night that was rigging, and this is where it gets very wild, wild west. I wouldn't suggest this to anybody, but I came back the next week, and my first time in rope was in suspension live in front of an audience.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, I wouldn't recommend that way.
Right.
Start, but I think it was really important for my journey because I was really enthralled with the performance aspect. I had always been a performer. I was really into acting, and I was a drama kid growing up. So I always loved to perform. And so that was a beautiful outlet, the performance aspect. And then I think also just like going from stage fright, apprehension, like, not knowing, kind of anxiety brain, to just complete Zen relaxation meditation in the rope was such a drastic juxtaposition that it really kind of ignited this flame, this eternal flame that just seems to burn brighter as time goes on that I have for rope.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw me experience that because that was my first time ever doing such kind of rope play. I'd only been tied up, doing some rope art once with our good friend Mac, and then getting suspended. I'm very itchy because I want more of that. It's such a beautiful addiction, and like it's so amazing. And I never ever would have thought it would like expand, because for me with rope, like at least 10 years ago, I thought it was like BDSM stuff, but it's so much more of this beautiful connection to not only like the like rope. Yes, it's fun. We like getting tied up, but it's also like in a trust of, because I've learned that there's rope top, bottoms, riggers. There's a lot of different roles in the rope world.
Yeah. And then you have people like me who switch,
Yeah,
which,
because you do it all.
yeah. So I do, I love getting tied by others. I tie other people. And then I also self tie and self suspend.
So how did you like teach yourself? You said you're self-taught?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
So I'd say my greatest mentor and teacher in rope is Miss True Blue, who owns Vox Body in Oakland. That was kind of my second home in Oakland. I was there all the time, and that is where I learned the majority of what I know, especially in terms of tying. I also took private lessons with Shay Tizano, who's an incredible self-tire and self-suspender. So Shay is who taught me most of the self-tying that I know, at least got me started. And she also has a book called Flying and Tying on Self-Suspension that is really good. There's a photo of me in the back of it.
Oh, y'all go get that book just to see that cute picture. Oh.
Yeah, so those are, yeah, two of my greatest teachers. And then just in terms of continued education, I try to go to as many workshops and intensives from heavy hitters in the rope industry as possible. And then I also use Shibari Study quite a bit, which is like an online resource. So I kind of see that as like my homework and my study guide, but I think it's really important to also continue in-person education. I just did a workshop with Kiss Me Deadly Doll, who's based in New York, and Wicked Wren, who's an LA based kinkster. And they just had a workshop at the bank in LA on bamboo. That was really fun and enlightening.
Wait,
And
bamboo? What?
yeah, how to tie people to bamboo with bamboo.
Oh.
Yeah, so that is one of the ways that you can rig people is actually like a bamboo that is level you can use as a hard point. And then also the workshop had a lot of elements of like how to tie pieces of bamboo in and incorporate them into your body ties as well.
Wow, I never would have thought bamboo would be part of that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's
Because I
a
mean, bamboo is grass. It's claimed as grass. I learned that recently somehow. I don't know why that came into my brain, but bamboo is a grass, and so technically you can use that as rope.
yeah.
So that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and we're going to be getting hard points put into the studio in the next couple of months.
I know your studio. It's so beautiful. Like I walked in and I've never felt more calm and just like serene in the whole world. Like it was so amazing. Your studio, because of course you go there and like there's a gate and everything, and I love the security and whatnot. And I walked in and I just like everything that like I had like felt bad about just melted away. You have
Oh,
built such an amazing thing for someone like because I'm new to the rope industry. Like I never thought about dabbling in it, and I was of course like nervous. I was hella nervous, and
right.
I walked in and you were just like, "You're fine." I was like, "Okay, I trust you," and I did, and it was just so at peace. You handed me the iPad. You're like, "Pick some music." I was like, "Okay," and I just was at ease. I was like, "Okay," and
Yeah,
you're such a great teacher.
magic I did in here, but I hear that a lot is that people come in here and they just feel really good and you
There's
know,
such good vibes.
yeah. And I think, part of it is just being really intentional with curating the space, in a way that I feel relaxed and calm and happy to do rope. I think that was one of my biggest inspirations with opening a rope space is I felt like it was so hard to find a space where you could do education and build community, and it wasn't like a dungeon with like strobe lights and
Right.
I would just get really overstimulated in those places. Not that I don't love those spaces, but those to me are more play spaces or places where I'm not really trying to absorb information. And
Yeah.
so one of my intentions with this space was to have an environment that was really conducive to learning and being able to um, yeah, just kind of absorb the information and network with people and just have like a really nice, calm environment.
Yeah, I mean, we felt calm to the point where even, my boyfriend, he was like, I want to learn now. And like, you guys were like all open to like letting him learn. He had never done that before. And
Yeah.
him and I, like, after we left that session, we crashed. I ended up, I was in such that beautiful high that I had to take the hardest nap ever. And
Yeah.
it was so beautiful because it's such a organic thing like that. And I again, I thought that, you know, rope play as much, I'm sure most people, they're like, oh, rope play means you're going to tie me up to the bed. And no, there's such like a very, it's such a, I don't want to say religion, but it's very much like you feel like you're in heaven. You just
Yeah.
have to let go because I would tell you 100%. I will never forget this moment when you guys were suspending me, and that was terrifying but so exciting because I never thought I'd be suspended. How does one get into that kind of a mindset? Because you kind of have to let go.
Yeah, and I think that part of it is really like letting the rope guide you into it. Rope kind of almost requires you to be fully present and fully in your body, um, which gives us that really juicy feeling of being totally grounded and present in the moment. And is not a space that we're often able to be in with the like hustle and bustle of the world. You know, we're often just overworking our brains, and rope is this really beautiful way of just kind of like calming your system and kind of forcing you to focus on just what is happening within your body, with the rope, with the person that you're practicing with. So it really is like this beautiful way of like calming your system in a lot of ways. It's really what the feeling you're describing people will often refer to as subspace. And really
Mhm.
what is happening with subspace is that our prefrontal cortex is starting to shut down and quiet, because you're only operating systems that are essential at that point. And so that's why it's really important to make sure that we're practicing really ethically and safely with a lot of informed consent and negotiation before we go into the rope, because it's so common for both tops and bottoms to really enter like an altered headspace where you're fully engrossed in the moment and the scene that you're creating and in the rope. So yeah, it can be a really powerful experience. And yeah, I think there is a really like almost spiritual aspect to it as well.
Do you have like some trouble sometimes when it comes to someone with their first time ever doing it? Because I mean that was my first time, and I felt like it went pretty well.
Yeah,
You called me a koi fish at one point.
you did. You had a koi.
But that was my first time. But like, has there ever been like troubles that have ever like happened with that? Because I know like it's a very curious, you know, thing to do. But I'm sure there's some people that like go into it and they go, oh, it's probably not for me.
Yeah, I have had some people. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I did have somebody who had a little anxiety. And like as soon as we went into the suspension, they were like, oh, no, 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 I have to like, this is too much. And they came and I was, I brought them right out of it immediately. Like they leaned into it and then I brought them right back up because they were like, but I think part of that was that they were stiffening up because they were anxious. So the rope was not able to kind of mold into them in a comfortable position. It was like fighting, they were fighting against the rope basically. Um, but the really beautiful thing was that, I took them out, we did some deep breathing together, and, I adjusted kind of the placement of the rope, and we took it even slower at even a slower snail speed. And I kind of allowed them to take the reins on dropping into it, and they were able to get into it and really really enjoyed it. It was just the initial moment they were like, this is too much. So I think it's really important to treat physical, mental, or emotional things that might come up just as important as we would physical things that might come up in rope as far as safety. Like I would be just as quick to cut my rope and get someone out of it immediately if they were having a panic situation versus like a nerve impingement or an actual physical injury. So I think that it's just really important that the person being tied really has that feeling and authority of being in control and having autonomy. And I know we are playing with loss of control and helplessness and giving someone your control, but the beautiful part of that is the authority to be able to give that. And it is revocable at any time. You are giving up your control, but you are still completely in power. And that can be a really empowering feeling for people.
Yeah, because you were absolutely very attentive the whole time that I was being rigged up, and that was so amazing because you kept asking, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what? I'm just fine." And you guys were so attentive, and so, and that because for me, when I think again, when I thought about role play, I was like, "Oh, they're just gonna like hang me up and call it a day," and I would have been okay with it, but that's just my own mindset because I made sure because I like to be a spiritual person to like meditate because you do have to be in such a mindset to give into something like that. And I love something about you is that you are very well about understanding both sides, you know, because that is very key. It's even like within, you know, a sub-dom relationship is the best way to understand something that you want someone to act as. Try both sides and see how that goes, and then you can make a better judgment on something like that because role play can be a bit dangerous. There are some people out there that do it in bad ways, and I hope to never hear about that ever again because the rope community is too awesome, and there's too many people out there that are really hurting the community. It breaks my heart to hear that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of like one of those inevitable evils of the world, and rope isn't immune to it. There's always going to be bad actors. There's always going to be people who are using this to manipulate or harm. And I realized pretty early on that focusing on predatory people and going after predatory people was, I mean, yes, there is an essential part of that. If there is a predatory people, we want to create a very hostile environment for them to be able to function in. But I realized that our best defense against that is actually educating people in rope and educating people on how to be autonomous and how to have authority over their practice and how to protect themselves from people who might have not good intentions, because just going after predatory people is like playing whack-a-mole, like there's always going to be more and more people that are going to be trying to come into this space, right? And so I think that our greatest defense against that is really to be aware of what we're doing, our practices, our risk profile, how to vet people properly, how to really determine if somebody is operating from a place of good intentions or not. And then also being able to have your own knowledge of what is safe, what is ethical, and not just letting someone guide you through this practice, and really kind of like take ownership over your own practice as well.
Exactly. I remember the safe word. I'm not using it, and I still haven't yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
But
I know it's written on your wall.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like even though you're making yourself so vulnerable, you're still in control no matter what.
Yes, exactly. And I have noticed that, I did have a little bit of a fear of, oh, there's going to be predatory people trying to come into this space. And I've actually found that I feel like they kind of already know just from our vibe that it's not going to be a successful place for them because we are so focused on consent and negotiation and education and creating an environment where people can really be seen and heard, and it's just so interesting that, these through the rumor mill, you hear about certain people in your city or town that might not be the most ethical or safe players. And I just find it really interesting that none of these people have even tried to come to our space.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I've heard a little bit of tea about just in your area that there are some people who are not doing, right justice to the rope community. It's awful. Like
Uh,
there's some rumors, and I know that if they try to walk in there, you'd be like, nope, gone. No.
yeah.
It's not okay to do that because what you're doing, I mean, you've been doing this since September, and you've bloomed something so beautiful that I'm so excited to like tell the whole world. I've been talking about it nonstop for months.
I love
Like it's so incredible. And the fact that like we got to meet in person, and I wish we would have recorded the podcast at the studio. I'm sorry everyone, it didn't work out, but we're here. She's in the studio at least. But it's just what you're doing for the community is just it's so gorgeous, and it warms my heart, and I'm sure it warms a lot of people's hearts because I never thought that existed. I didn't know about it,
yeah.
until a couple months ago, until I met Mac, and he was like, "No, this is a thing." I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
I like it. It's fun. Okay."
Yeah, and
And
that's one of our biggest passions here is really like making rope accessible and kind of like breaking a lot of the stigmas and things that the misconceptions people might have about this practice. And really like bringing it to the forefront because for a really long time it was kind of underground and gatekeepy, and it was hard to learn and be part of the community and to really know anything about it. Plus we had the worst media representation.
yeah,
you know so I think for a really long time, there was basically how everyone saw this practice and how this practice actually is for a lot of people. So I'm really passionate about just being really out in the open about our practice and the beauty and power that comes with this practice, and that there are people really using this force for something so beautiful and good.
yeah, and it's very therapeutic. I told you, my back felt so much better after that. Oh my god, it's amazing how like it can change so much of your emotions and spirituality. And again, I don't have back pain anymore. It was so amazing.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. And you're doing such a big change. And the fact that you've only been around since September, you need to go big. The whole world needs to know about you because you're absolutely incredible. We had talked before and I met you in person and I was like, I trust this woman with my life. Like, I'm cool. Like, I get it. Like, you're incredible. And what your movement is doing, I'm on board with it. Like, I want the whole world to know about this.
Thank you.
This is Rope Collective. Like, please go follow them. Like, because you guys, your education is beautiful, and what you're doing it's definitely out of the norm. Not for me, for the rest of the world. But
Right.
please, like, go get some jute rope and see how that feels.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Well,
well. Is there anything that you want to plug in before we end?
I think just that, we would love to, if you're ever in the San Diego area, come visit us. We also, I have another project with Bondage and Brews, which is more like events too. So we have a bunch of like really big events coming up. We're actually going to do like a homage to MTV Spring Break this summer and have like a mansion party. So
Oh, guess where I'm going to be this summer in San
yeah,
Diego. Got it.
back in August because
Oh,
we're about to make some really, really big moves and have some really amazing events coming up that I'm really excited and proud to be bringing. So yeah, just to look out for us, and who knows, maybe one of these days there'll be like Rope Collective in your city.
oh my gosh, please bring it to Phoenix. We need it so badly. All we got is swingers stuff here. I'm
No,
tired of it. I'm
it's
not
okay.
tired of it. I'm sorry.
I grew up in Tucson. I know
Oh,
how.
yeah, you did.
Arizona.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Like, you're such an incredible individual. Like, I love how, like, amazing you are. And you sent out on this mission, I'm going to say 10 years ago. You knew that this was going to happen. And now you're just thriving.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. It is hard work, but it is the most fulfilling and purposeful thing I've ever done.
I mean,
So,
at least you get to mix, your kinky world with the business world.
yeah.
So that is such a well balanced. A lot of people don't get to do that. Well,
Right. Well,
Tony, thank you so
wonderful.
much. You've been incredible.
Yeah, it was so wonderful to connect with you, and I look forward to having you back in the studio one day.
Oh my God. Okay. I'll try.
Right.
Hi, well, this is the Ugly Couch Podcast. I'm not your host, Darth Ginger. I don't know what the fuck this is. Thanks for being here, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Tweet me at the Ugly Couch Podcast, and make sure you follow everything for Tony, Rope Collective. She's amazing. Please do. Tiger. I got it right this time. I messed
Yes.
it up earlier, whatever.
No.
All right, you guys. Bye.